Education to order. Please be aware the meeting is going to be recorded. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I need a motion to amend the agenda to include this meeting will be recorded. Under approved consent agenda items, financial B, personnel, the date changes in A and B, financial, the non-action discussion and action item B. I'll make that motion. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? So carried. All right, made a motion to approve consent agenda items as listed. Any then, a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? So carried. Is Heather on?
No.
No, okay.
Very similar.
Okay. All right, personnel action item, adopt the following resolution. Be it resolved that the board president is hereby authorized to sign an employment agreement with Holly Sanford to serve as a school business administrator on a contractual non-tenure varying basis pursuant to an internship certificate issued by the New York State Education Department for the period commencing on May 26, 2021 and ending on June 30th, 2021. A copy of said agreement shall be incorporated by the reference within the minutes of this meeting. Any motion?
I'll make that motion.
Second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
Why only a month?
It's to her, she gets her internship done. And the contractor reads it.
So she has a month to get the internship certificate?
No, she doesn't. It was just this is the way the attorneys wrote it up.
And because it's a yearly appointment.
It's a yearly appointment, so she'll be
From our
reappointed.
Yeah.
fiscal year. Okay.
For our
It's fiscal.
year. Yeah.
Okay.
And she can obviously renegotiate as of June 30th. So. Any discussion? Anything more? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? So carried. Be it, adopt following resolution. Be it resolved that the Board of Education hereby authorizes Stephen Goss, interim business official, to continue in his capacity through May 25th, 2021, and mentor the district school business administrator for up to 14 days non-consecutive. The motion?
Second.
Any discussion?
Very happy to have you.
Oh,
Thank you very much. You sure you want me? Are you sure you want me?
I get very used to retirement. I will miss people here. I did admit that. Everybody's been very helpful and cooperative.
Oh, that's good. Anything else? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? So carried. Thank you.
Tammy,
Yes.
is there any way we can go back to personnel pay
I'm
for
sorry.
1 second?
Yep.
Do we have an amount of the salary?
Yes, it was what we agreed upon in the contract.
Because it's normally in.
Oh, yeah, it
it's
is normally
the
in
minutes
here.
when we hire somebody.
We
I don't
could-
remember what we agreed on, but it's always in the minutes.
It was 80,000.
Okay.
It was in her contract. Did they
Yes,
get
it's in the
the contract itself?
Yep.
In our board note or
It
board
will,
packet?
it will go. Yeah, it's in your board packet.
It was in our board packet.
But it's always in,
Oh, this is what
it's always
the,
on record.
yeah, this is what the
It will be
attorney
part of the
sent.
board
Yeah,
minutes.
but yes, you're right. But it
I
is,
mean, I
yeah,
just know every time we hire somebody, the amount always on there. Okay.
yeah, it is 80,000. That's what she agreed to.
Yeah.
Prorated, obviously, for the year. Okay. All right. Financial non-action items, discussion on the revised property tax report cards. So I'm not gonna read all that. I'm gonna let you guys, because it is non-action.
Yes, property tax report card. I had to amend it again. We cannot increase the tax levy as much as we thought. I did ultimately get access to the comptroller system. And I did want to go back in and for the calculation of the tax cap, revise what last year's capital exclusion was, essentially because it would have been, it would have helped us increase the tax cap if we could change it. And it would have resulted in a smaller deduction out of the tax levy from last year before we started increasing it this year. I couldn't do it on the system alone. You have to have permission from the comptroller's office. I was connected with somebody in their kind of like a liaison office for tax cap. And she listened to me. She said, I have to put it to my supervisor. He isn't in the office. He's working from home. I said, could I speak to him? She says, no, I have to convey it to him. And they basically said, no, we're not going to allow you to go back and change your capital exclusion from the prior year. It would help, it would help you in the tax cap, ask you some questions. Was it just gross error? I said, no, things have changed. We're in flux. We have a capital project changing, aid changing on it all the time. The numbers changed, and this is the best number, I have now. And they said, and I think they kind of implied, well, everybody would want to do this because it'll allow you to increase your tax levy more in the following year. No, you can't do it. So.
Okay.
That's it in a nutshell.
And that was it. And I said, can I talk to the supervisor? No, you have to go through me. I said, okay, never mind. All right.
So what
So,
that means
what it
is
means.
what?
What it means, instead of having a 1.46% increase in the levy, it's going to be 0.82%, less than 1%. But best we leave it this way. I wouldn't dare do anything else with it because they could come back at us and say you over levied and you should have had a vote that would require a supermajority, it's basically your 2/3 approval of the voters. We don't want to get in that territory. So it's like, okay, we need to leave it be. It does mean that the difference is, I'm trying to think, it's 60, I can't remember the number, 61,000. So we have to, if we're not getting that, the tax levy, we have to add it to the amount of appropriated fund balance that we will use. I feel comfortable with us doing that. And I looked today, I took some time looking at the current budget and what we spend, what we've encumbered. We are definitely, I think, in perfectly okay territory to go with that higher fund balance amount if we need to use it, because it's number one, we are getting the state aid we thought we were going to lose back. The state aid is flowing normally at this point. We're definitely going to underspend the budget. We had put in 1.1 million, and it's got to be at least that much, and I think could very well be more. An example was today with special ed, an issue came up, like people that are supposed to get related services through outside contractors. We spent very little. The kids have been home, they haven't been getting the services. I think there are in a lot of areas we're going to not spend the money. So I think we're going to, come out just fine with this by, using fund balance. It's essentially going to be replaced. And I think a lot of what we appropriated, we said for this year's budget, that's being made up by state aid being returned, and the fact we didn't make expenditures thinking we weren't going to get state aid. I think we're fine, for the upcoming year. I wouldn't say, that if I didn't believe it. I think we'll be okay.
So we would increase the fund
Use of fund
that's
balance to make
used
up,
from
right.
1.033
Let's see here.
to 1.095.
Yeah, so it goes up by the amount we reduce the tax levy so that all the numbers balance at the end, and we're at the same bottom line number for the budget is really all that it does. So not insignificant, but
There we go.
Close this right up.
So if I show you on this, that's the tax levy
Yeah.
right there.
0.82%.
Okay.
I think I would add one thing to this. I think this will ultimately stabilize out with this in and out of this capital cost exclusion and add back. I think it'll stabilize out over time as we get to the point the capital project gets finished, the final cost report gets filed, we're getting a regular and routinized, same every year amount of building aid generally back on that, where the number in and out should probably be very, much the same, as long as, we do a $100,000 capital outlay exception project every year, because that's part of that capital cost we get to take in and out in the tax levy. And, as long as the BOCES rent and capital costs and the aid stay pretty simple, the number should stabilize out and won't change that much. So these ins and outs hopefully won't negatively affect the tax levy, and we'll be able to get what essentially is the full amount allowed by growth in the actual building and construction and real property and whatever the inflation factor is. because basically the inflation fit, and this is the impact of reducing, what you get from those other allowable increases. So I think it will ultimately, after another year or so, stabilize out. So at least that should help.
I put the screen up there so I could share it. You can see the differences from where we
Yeah.
anticipated, now we amended.
Any further discussion? Anybody have anything? All right. So that moves us to B, which is an action item, accept the revised property tax report card for 2021, 2022, whereby, whereas the Board of Education of the Germantown Central School District of Germantown, New York, Columbia County desires to adopt a revised property tax report card to accompany the annual school district budget for the fiscal year 2021, 2022. And whereas the property tax report card is required by sections 1608(7) and 2601-A of education law. Need a motion?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion? And this is the stuff that has to be filed, right?
Yes.
I have it ready to, resubmit it to the SED. It's ready to go.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? So carried. All right, superintendent, action item.
Right, I'd like to adopt the following resolution. Be resolved that upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the Board of Education hereby confers tenure upon Renee Greskow in the social worker tenure area effective April 28, 2021.
I'll make that a motion.
Okay.
Any discussion?
Is she on Zoom?
She's here,
She
yep.
is on Zoom, yes. I believe.
Can I just say a few words on behalf of Renee?
Definitely, thank you.
So what an honor to be able to support her tenure. Renee has been, even before our pandemic year, just a key foundational piece to our school community. She works on behalf of our students and our families and our faculty and staff every day. She gives us much more than we could ever expect from her, and she works tirelessly to serve our families on the weekends and in the evenings, and she is just a key cornerstone to what we do during our year. And we're really indebted to Renee, and we're so lucky to be able to have her on our team.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Is Ziggy there?
He's
And then there's Ziggy.
yeah, I am in his chair. He's kind of curled up on the other couch because I took his spot.
He's getting tenure too, by the
He's
way.
getting tenure too. Okay.
He deserves it too. Thank you.
All in-
Congratulations, Renee.
okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? So carried. All right, thank you, Renee. Your work is truly invaluable, and a lot of it this year with our social emotional needs for our kids coming back. So we appreciate it. All right. Non-action item. Oh, this is still you. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. A non-action item, a discussion of the SRD's body worn cameras. I was expecting Captain Bray from the sheriff's office to be on, but he also had traffic court at 6:30, so we might be ahead of the game here. I just wanted to be help everybody be aware from the board that the sheriff's department through the police reform have now started wearing their body cameras in one of our SRDs that's in the building is a part of the sheriff, and it's got one on his possession. The regulations and guidelines that they're following is the state guidelines at this point. They're only allowed to turn them on if it's an arrestable situation. And I don't see that happening here. And that's going to be based on the SRD's personal comfort zone in that situation. Secondly, they can't use it for any juvenile unless it's in the courts for prosecution. And thirdly, they can block out, because it goes into what they call a cloud. And in the cloud, they can black out all pictures of all those that are not the actual person that's in question. These are big items that we brought up as superintendents to the sheriff's department. And they are also working with us in developing a specific protocol and policy for their SRDs in the schools as school resource deputies. So we are working with them. We have our attorneys working on it as well. But as long as they're not turning it on unless it's an arrestable cause, that's what they're telling us they're going to do. I did give you the basic overview body worn cameras policy that they adopted just for general, and that's the state policy that they adopted for now. And then I just wanted to make sure everybody's aware in case this comes out. Why is my kid wearing, or why is there an officer in the building wearing a camera? They're not on, they don't turn on until they turn them on themselves. So I guess that's open up to discussion, want your feedback, so I can bring it back to the sheriff. And also, I can also bring it back to our attorneys and the superintendents.
I'd say my biggest concern is just, I mean, the privacy. I mean, these are juveniles.
Yeah.
But you know, we do have to trust our law enforcement that they are going to do, you know, right by our, you know, population. They are here for a reason. And, but that would be the only, I guess knowing from law enforcement, or from our attorneys, you know, what, I don't know, just the liability.
Right.
issues, I mean, and that sort of thing.
Right, so and
I
then
don't know what they
again,
would be.
and again, they can't, if they do turn them on, they're only utilized if it's in prosecution. And we're trying to discuss with them, what if we need to use them for school discipline down the road? So there's some gray areas yet, but they have the ability to black out all those people or that might be in the camera, except for the one person that they are trying to camera. So, I mean, it's a time of where we are in the real world, and they're based on the police reform. They have to wear them. I'll give you an example. If we had to call in the sheriff or the state troopers for something that happened in our building, like if we had something going on, they would all have them on and they would be turned on. So I guess it really comes down to, we're still working with the sheriff department to verify when SRDs and train them even more. So we are working behind the scenes, but I just want to make sure everybody's aware that this is occurring. And they're very flexible, the sheriff's department. So I agree with you.
I'm just, you know, concerned, should there be something. there it is,
Perfect. Captain Lou's on.
Something that we announce to parents, to the community,
Mhm.
you know, please be aware.
Yep.
I don't know, I just don't know what the,
Captain Bray, how are you, sir?
I'm doing well, thank you. How are you?
Thank you. Very good. I have you here with the Germantown Board of Education members and community members. If you could just share a little bit more, I kind of gave an overview of what we discussed in the superintendent's meeting. If you can share a little bit more about the body cams, that'd be greatly appreciated.
Certainly. So, sorry if I don't know what has already been told, but I'll kind of give the nickel tour here. The county, through police reform, has implemented a program whereby all uniformed deputy sheriffs were purchased a body-worn camera, and those body-worn cameras were provided to every uniformed deputy sheriff that patrols or works in the county. And it's basically, I don't know if you've seen the device, it's called the Axon Body 3. Axon is the manufacturer. The Body 3 is the model of the camera. It's about the size of if you know what a pager used to be, it's about the size of a pager, maybe just a little bigger. Typically, it's mounted to the deputy's chest area, either on the very front, on where there's a little hoop on their shirt, or perhaps in a pocket, or some mount with magnets or clips somewhere on the front shirt. So they're all typically visible on the front of the deputy sheriff. It's a little black device. It has a ring around it that glows with an LED. That LED will light up red when the body camera is activated and recording. Otherwise, you see no light. So it's very easy to see when the camera is on and recording. When we implemented the program, we needed to have some kind of policy in place to dictate to the deputies when to use the cameras and how to use them. There's been a lot of discussion through police reform about what would be the ideal policy for our county and for our deputies. So we had to adopt an interim policy, which is only going to be good until we develop something with the police reform panel and the subcommittee of the Public Safety Committee in Columbia County to determine what fits best for us here in Columbia County. So we've adopted the New York State model policy for interim use, and that policy has been in effect for several years here in the state of New York. It's done in conjunction with the New York State Division of Criminal Justice Services and the Municipal Police Training Council. It's a pretty basic policy. It kind of covers everything from A to Z, but it's pretty generic in nature. Again, that's just interim, so it's only until we get feedback from the police reform committees and from the schools and from other interested parties about what would work best in our county. So that policy still, the final policy is still to be determined. One of the questions that comes up often is, when will the deputies record? And I don't know, Superintendent, did you share the policy with the board members or anybody?
Yes, they have. Yes.
They have seen it?
Yes, I sent it in their packet. Yes.
Okay, so I'm not going to get into the details. You've seen that model use policy. It's 4 pages long. There's a list of several items that would trigger a recording of the cameras. And in the school settings, there's several of them won't apply in the school setting. Certainly, we're not doing search warrants. I shouldn't say certainly. Typically, we wouldn't be doing search warrants in the school. Hopefully, we're not making a lot of arrests in the school. So it would basically be only, and we're not dispatching cars to calls in the school. The deputies are there anyways, so it wouldn't be in response to a call that they were dispatched to. So the only time that a deputy in the school would be recording is if there was some serious incident, perhaps an assault in the school that's taking place, perhaps an irate parent that came in and started causing a disturbance in the lobby. Those would be instances where the deputy would be required to turn on their body camera. And there's a lot of concern that we've heard already about student and faculty privacy concerns. Certainly this would be less invasive than the current school surveillance systems that the schools in the county have. Those are recording days a week. We would only be recording under a very small specific set of circumstances, and that data is not shared with anyone. That data is stored on a secure cloud server through Axon International. It's fully encrypted and complies with all state and federal guidelines for security purposes. It's not shared with anyone. We don't disclose it to the public. We don't have any reason to share it, so we wouldn't. And if there was some certain circumstances that arose where if it was a criminal case or perhaps a school discipline issue, where the school may want to get copies of the footage that we record, we can provide it to the schools. And we even have the ability through the software to do full redaction. We can blur out faces of other people, uninvolved parties, pictures, license plate numbers, whatever. We can redact anything we want to from the videos if it's necessary for privacy concerns. The other thing is that's important to note with body cameras is that New York State passed many laws last year or within the last year or so regarding police reform, and the governor has mandated through law that the New York State Police all wear body cameras. They've already started rolling them out. They have no option. It still is optional for local police, county and local police, although we're proactive because we feel like at some point it's going to become mandatory for every police officer, not only in the state, probably in the country, to have a body camera. So you will see police officers in your school with body cameras anytime they respond, because those, again, if it's a state police member, they're going to be required by law to wear it and use it under the same or similar circumstances that we will. And any of our deputy sheriffs that come to your school for any emergencies or calls for service will be entering the schools with body cameras as well. So we didn't want to preclude the school resource deputies from wearing them. We feel it's invaluable tool, and we hope that we don't have to use it often, if ever, but if we do have to use it, we certainly want to be able to have that video to substantiate whatever took place and have an actual true accounting of what transpired in the schools. So that's my my quick brief overview of the body camera program. I'd be happy to entertain questions if I can answer them.
You hear me?
I thought I heard somebody. I just didn't hear the question.
I just want to say, how long will the information stay in the cloud until the situation is settled and then it's erased permanently?
He wants to know how long it would be held in the cloud as a
The
data.
retention period. Okay, so there's a couple of things with retention period that I'll say. The model policy that we're using currently, it says that the videos will be saved for a period of 6 months, and then there's some latitude to extend that if the need arises. And what that means is if there was an incident that perhaps a criminal case, if there was somebody that was arrested and needed to be prosecuted, there could be potential for that video to stay longer than 6 months. But the typical retention period right now is 6 months. We have the ability to manipulate that in the future with the policy that we end up implementing fully. So it could be anything from 6 months to a year to 3 years or whatever we want to set that at. And every recording is categorized. So the deputy sheriff will, after the recording is over, he or she will have to categorize that recording. And depending on the category that the recording is placed into, will dictate the length of time that it's saved in the cloud. So if it's a typical, just a citizen encounter or something generic that doesn't result in an arrest, that would fall under the most basic category of a recording. And again, 6 months. If it rose to something more serious, like a school shooter or something like that, God forbid, those retention periods may be defaulted to say for much longer periods of time. But the short answer is 6 months.
Thank you.
Yeah, we are.
I'm having a hard time hearing the question.
It was not directed towards you, so you're okay. I was just,
Sorry.
Community know that this is something that is going to be happening or is happening. I don't even, they've been rolled out. He's probably already wearing it.
Yeah, the cameras have all been issued to the deputy sheriffs. All the deputy sheriffs have been trained on the use of the cameras. To this date, as far as I know, there have been 0 recordings made in any of the school districts in the county since we started rolling them out a few weeks ago.
Good. That's a good thing.
It is.
All right, well,
No
thank you.
news is good news.
That's right.
Cap-
Thank you so much for joining us.
Captain Bray, thank you.
You're welcome. And anytime if the board or anyone wants to see something a little more personal, I'm more than happy to come down and bring the cameras, meet sometime even during school or after school and show everybody, how the system works and, play back some recordings. We can do some test ones or whatever and kind of give everybody a much more in-depth tour of them if you guys feel it's necessary.
Charging complete.
All right. Thank you, Captain Bray.
You're welcome. Thank you.
That's all I have this evening.
Take care, everybody.
Thank you. All right.
So is that something that we could work through, like even in the newspaper? An article for the school to let the community know?
Yes,
What we
we are working with the attorneys, and not just us, Hudson, Taconic Hills, we're all working together with our attorneys. So we have common language. So it's not one district saying one thing, another saying another. All the superintendents, because it's all new for us too,
Mhm.
want to be on the same page. So we expect to have something in writing out to the people real soon. Our attorneys are talking and we're talking every day on it. So
I mean, I don't even know if our whole community understands that there's a deputy sheriff here
Hmm.
on a regular basis. So to do that along with, the body camera might be a good thing.
And I think having them come and especially with the administration, at least to show.
Yep.
You
I
know,
think that would be
what's
really
going to happen.
great,
I think
yeah.
it's an important thing for people to be aware.
We've had the same people for a while, right?
Well, we new
No.
guy this year,
Yeah.
Yeah.
He started last March, I believe.
so. But still, I mean, they kind of rotate through. So, which is good. All right, anything else? A motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? So carried. All right, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.